Hey, what's up? It's the American Ink podcast. I'm Luke Wyldmon. I'm here with a very good friend of mine, Mr. Chad Derick Miller.
Yeah, Chad Derick Miller. I go by C. Derick Miller, my pen name when I'm writing. So either one is completely fine with me.
So you're obviously an author, a novelist.
Right, yes.
And I've got a chance to check out. I haven't gone as far. I'm not a reader, but I have got a chance to watch some of your open. I don't know if you're reading. You're talking about your books.
Right. Yeah, I was in the process of writing one that's about to go to publishing here soon. And I had a crazy idea to do something where, as I would write 1,000 words, that was my goal for the day, was to write 1,000 words a day. And then I would go back and read those 1,000 words and just kind of, I guess, bait people into caring about what happens next.
Yeah.
I ended up reading the first maybe 5 chapters of it.
So I get the idea that you write some horror, some sci-fi. It's fiction,
Right?
Mostly.
Right.
Mostly, is it? Would you call it horror?
Not necessarily horror, more or less dark fiction. I'm with another publisher now that publishes nothing but dark fiction and extreme horror. So, I have a novel I don't have it coming out in 2 days. Me and 16 other authors have contributed short stories to a novel that we'll be releasing this coming Tuesday called And Hell Followed. And what it is, it's short stories based on what we think would happen if the Book of Revelations occurred today. So mine is, some of the guys that are in it, theirs is extreme horror. Mine, I decided to go the comedy route with it.
Man.
I mean, very gory comedy route, but comedy route with it. It's called Hell Paso, because one of my worst memories is being in the Army and having to spend a month at Fort Bliss. So if I thought, what's the worst place I've ever been to where I would want, I wouldn't want to be there if the apocalypse took place, and that would be El Paso, Texas.
El Paso.
So I went.
That sounds like a military name. I forgot last time we talked. You told me you served for the Army.
Yeah.
So thank you, by the way.
No
I didn't
problem.
realize
And you as well, weren't you?
The Air Force. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
So, thank you for your service. But yeah, that would be an interesting place to be, I guess, stuck at if you had to.
Yeah.
But I find that kind of fascinating, the dark comedy stuff. You're in for a little bit of thrill, but there's still that comic edge to it, so you don't have to get too serious about it. I think for me and some folks, I think with the horror novels and stuff, it's just, I don't know if it's too far fetched, but I think it's kind of cool when you can tie that comedy.
Those are the best.
thread.
Those are the best horror movies. Are the ones that keep the comedy in there, because that's part of life. That's a part of everyday life. Nobody goes through a day in their life without either hearing or making some kind of joke. And you cut those out of the movies and out of the scripts, and it no longer becomes realistic. So
Yeah, it's just horror. I when I was a kid, I remember the thrill of like staying up late and seeing Friday the 13th or something like that, but even then, I mean, I think you're really just watching for the nudie scenes.
Right, yeah.
Boobies!
Yeah, not just any nudie scenes. Early 80s nudie scenes.
That was taboo back then, man.
Yeah, it was all mullets and pointy nipples.
I was totally the kid staying up, flipping to the channels that we don't get on cable, to see if I could make it out in the...
They're all squiggly and scrambled, and you're looking, you're trying to, like that's going to make a difference. Yeah, guilty.
I remember when Sex and the City first came out. I think it was before I graduated. It was before I graduated, definitely. But because that was one of the first shows, I'm like, oh, they're talking about sex right now. It's so creepy, man. We're guys. As guys, sometimes we do some crazy stuff.
We're horrible creatures.
We were talking about prison earlier off the camera, and
now we're gonna go from sex to prison.
I'm gonna tell you how. This is why. Because you take all these men and you put them in confinement, and man, I've been watching a lot of YouTube lately. I ain't gonna lie, and there's a lot of prison sex that goes on. There's a lot of rape, but there's a lot of like straight guys that wind up doing stuff that they're not supposed to. And you just think about, like, I don't think I could ever, and I'm sure every heterosexual man out there is like, I could never be in that spot. I'm the same way. I'm like, it doesn't matter. I'll die first, right? But Like like we're talking about the cable, back in the 80s and 90s, the things that we would do just to see something we weren't supposed for
Right.
that allure, that attraction to the opposite sex. It's
Yeah.
it's so strong with us, and sometimes we're kind of like dogs.
Well, I mean, basic human needs, and you have to do the best you can do with the tools provided. And if that's the only tool they provide you with,
What if you just think about caveman? Like, what if we were alive in the Stone Age? Like, you see a rock or you see like a tree stump, you're like, man, that sure is a shapely tree stump.
you got to check
I'm
for
gonna hang
bees
out here for a
first,
while.
man. Check for bees first.
That probably didn't happen though, guys.
No, they found out the hard way. No pun intended. They found out the hard way.
But you tell me a little bit about your experience, if you don't mind. I'm going to shift gears here. I know we're going to get back to the novels, but I'm already in. I stuck my toe in the water, so we're here. You said you worked a little bit with some law enforcement. You had a really cool job, I thought, though, with statistics.
Yeah, it was with statistics, and a lot of people. We were also on another discussion before the camera started rolling. And a lot of people think that it's the prison system is full of minorities, and I guess it's like anything else in the world right now, where the organization is only as good as the people put as their spokesperson. Yeah. It's the same thing with political parties and everything right now, but it's really not. If I recall correctly, because it's been about 6 years, and I've tried to brain dump as much of that part of my life as possible.
Did you get a lot of inspiration from your time doing that?
I did, especially with a lot of the dark fantasy and the horror and the dark fiction. When I started out as a jailer, I used to sit in the hallways, and write.
Oh man.
Your tax dollars at work. I used to sit and I would write there because it was a great influence, because the energy that you sit in as an artist influences your work, and you're in the darkest place imaginable.
Yeah.
And it had a tendency to just take me further. And some of my early writings, I remember being so much more hardcore than what they are right now. It's because I don't have access to that negative energy anymore.
Yeah, but the stuff like that, when you're in those moments, is so raw and like real. I've known for myself, when writing music and stuff, whenever you're going through heartache or a breakup or you're homeless or something, that's when the best stuff comes out. It seems like.
I've got 4 songs that I'm an ASCAP songwriter.
Okay.
I've got 4 songs that have been, I've thought about switching to that route too, but I've got 4 songs that have been recorded by a band out of Rockwall, and they've since broke up and reformed, and they don't sing these songs anymore. But it was all based on, life experience. It was some of it was based on that negativity, some of it was based on my honeymoon, or just experiences that one of them that I've had as a writer, where I used to go and speak to like little 8th grade kids that were in creative writing classes.
Little smart suckers.
Right. But they're looking at me like I'm some sort of god, and here I am still living paycheck to paycheck. So
kids at that age are like a young water moccasin. They're more venomous than you know.
Right. They don't know how to stop. But the cool thing about that, though, was meeting some of these young kids who are now adults. Wow. And they're still writing, and we still stay in touch, and they claim that I'm some sort of influence.
They really look up to you.
If they only knew. But
now, where did you have you always been writing, or did it started like
it came really, really easy to me when I was younger, but I never used it.
Yeah.
I was approached in middle school after writing an essay, and we were supposed to write like a 2-page essay on why it's important to shut up when the teacher tells you to shut up. And I made a joke. I made an 8-page joke out of it, and the teacher took it to, I guess, the lady who was in charge of the newspaper or the yearbook or something. And he came back, and they really want you to write. And we're talking, this is 1986, 1987, something like that. I've got the world's best mullet. My only concern was trying to find a place to smoke a cigarette at lunch break. I didn't care about that.
Did you have a cool leather jacket?
I had a blue jean jacket. I had a
denim
Levi's faded blue jean jacket with a Def Leppard patch on the back.
Wow.
All the way.
You were styling and profiling,
yeah,
brother.
Yeah. So they came to me and they wanted me to write. And that was the nerd thing to do, because nerd wasn't cool back then. It's cool now.
Yeah.
Now all the nerds are getting laid. So, nerd is in, but back then it wasn't. And I'm like, oh, I'm not going to write, man. That's the nerd thing. So I didn't. But as my high school days came and went, I've had a lot of people come to me and they're like, hey, you remember when you wrote that poetry assignment for me, or that essay, or when? I'm like, no, I really don't remember that. But I did. And it's something that came easily. But I read a book. I'd been searching for it forever, and this is a long story. You sure you want to get into it, man?
I think I want a glass of water.
All right, guys, we're live.
Oh,
Are we live?
No, we're just recording,
Okay, we're recording.
and I can cut any of this out. So.
Oh, okay. That's good.
why would you want to cut it out? That's beautiful.
I'm really digging on the headphones. It's like, this is our most desperate hour. Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
My thinking is this is just like a really cool way to make sure that I'm not overbleeding on the microphone again. I'm so loud all the time. That's a family curse, my whole family's that way. Loud, loud, loud. Our only volume is maximum,
Half of my family's like that. The other half is very, very conservative and quiet. So
What is that? Just like everybody's family? Like
think
everybody's
so.
got one side that's extremely liberal or conservative, and the other one happens to be and then of course, anytime that you have a family get together, it's got to be awkward.
yeah, and we don't. My mother has been married and divorced 9 times.
Really?
Yeah, she has a divorce for every Beatles Revolution song. I don't know
Playing
if
the
that's why
fiddle.
she did it, but it's
Maybe it's
actually.
because marriage doesn't work.
I think it's.
Monogamy's a sham.
I've been married and divorced 3
I'm gonna get
times.
something thrown at me here in a second.
I've been married and divorced 3 times. Honestly, I think it's a failed institution.
Yeah.
I think it comes from a time and place where it worked,
Where it was needed.
where it was needed. It worked then, but now with all the equalities and the freedoms, and it doesn't work anymore. It was a watered down form of slavery, if you will, back then.
Yeah.
And it's not needed anymore. It's not needed. I know from a religious standpoint, a lot of people still stand behind it, but I do. I think it's a failed institution. I think if you can find that right person and you can make it happen somehow, some way, and you both get along, roll with it, man. Who gives a damn about that piece of paper?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Women just don't need us anymore.
That's it. That's
They
it
don't
too.
need us.
I mean,
They're like,
you go to Dallas and there's a new fine arts on every corner. They really don't need us anymore.
I mean, our job used to be to hunt and protect, right?
Yeah. What are we hunting now?
We go to the grocery store, man.
We hunt for fun. We
Yeah.
hunt to get away from the wife now.
Yeah, that's true, man.
And fish.
To try to get back into nature.
Right. It's recreation time now. It's not for survival. It's not to make sure that there's food on the table or to kill something and skin it and make clothing out of it. We go to Walmart and we buy that. Every time we go to Walmart, we're hunting now. That's our version. That's modern society's version of
Where's
hunting.
the mustard? Where's the mustard?
We're low crawling down the aisle looking for the mustard.
Oh man, I think about stuff like everything in society, but even the grocery store, the way they've got all the groceries arranged and all the items arranged so that you're in there longer, so you'll buy more stuff. And I'm the kind of guy, I get caught up in this stuff all the time. I'm like, just give me 40 acres and a mule, give me a piece of property somewhere I got water, and I'll just make it work. But I think that we're so spoiled probably with our, creature comforts that we don't know. We couldn't. I don't know if we could do it. I'd like to try though.
I think I could really. I've lived
Live off the grid.
Well, the last 2 years of my life I've lived with no cable because I just got so sick and tired of all the politics and the hate.
Yeah.
And the lies, and I'm not saying any particular entity lies, but there are a lot of lies on television, and you just get so sick of hearing it. So I got divorced and I moved out. It was just me and my son, and we've been living the last 2 years without cable, and it's been so damn peaceful.
Yeah.
I go to work and people are like, "Oh, did you hear what Trump's doing? Did you hear?" Well, I've heard the Facebook version of what Trump's doing. I don't know if that's true or not.
Oh man, I shut my Facebook down. I do it all the time. I shut it down today. It's just too much.
It's
just like TV. We had the cable go out a couple days ago, or the internet. Suddenlink. If you live in Hopkins County, you don't have any choice but to use Suddenlink. But It's peaceful, man. When you don't, it's
It
like
is.
freeing. It's like getting to go out in the country and not have any fences around for a while.
Well, modern technology has given everyone on the planet a voice, and I'm
Yeah.
not sure that everyone needs one.
No, because there's some dumb people out there.
And the dumb ones are the loudest ones,
always
and that's
are.
the one that everybody listens to. Is they listen to the loudest one. You don't have to be the smartest one or the prettiest one. You just have to be the loudest
The
one.
loudest, yeah.
And the dumb ones are loud.
Yeah, that explains a lot when I think about my life. And the problems we
No.
keep having with
No,
volume
but
control, but
yeah.
really, no.
Well, no, what you're doing here is a good example of having a voice and using it in a positive way. You're bringing this message to people that might not, especially in this area, this very conservative area that we live in, they might not get this type of view anywhere else because you're not. I mean, granted, the newspaper has started to open up a little bit, especially with the arrival of our new editor and everything. It started to open up a little bit, but the radio stations, the television stations, they still have to cater to the masses, and the masses around here are still mostly a conservative market.
Oh, yeah.
So this right here, just anything goes
Yeah,
type of program.
That's what it's all about.
There's a lot of people out there that have been dying for something like this.
Yeah.
So,
There's just so much information that's put out there. I mean, how do you know what's right? Other than talking about it.
it's a very dogmatic view. You know what I mean?
I don't know how you can get an idea and think you have an honest idea unless you go out and you're asking all these people.
No, you're getting once again the loudest person in that circle. You're getting their message, and you're expected to believe it. And if you don't believe it, all the other people who do believe it are going to shun you and bury you because you don't believe it, or they're gonna bug you until you cave in and believe it as well.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's a tough place sometimes. But it is nice when you have those breaks. Whenever your cable gets shut down or you shut your Facebook down for a while, it's like detox, man.
It is. It is almost like a drug, isn't it?
Yeah,
You're always
got the dopamine fix.
You know damn well you don't want to talk to anybody, but you're always pulling the phone out of your pocket just to see.
Let me check my Facebook. Did
Yeah.
anybody like my last post?
Right.
Oh my God, I've only got 19 likes in 2 hours.
I had a random thought on the toilet. Who liked it? Let me see who liked it. Boy, would they'd love it if they knew I was on the toilet when I wrote that.
I'm so ashamed. I did it. That's the reason why I shut down my Facebook page. I was ashamed. I did it. I am totally against the negative stuff out there, but when you have a problem with the company for like 3 or 4 years, my first inclination is to always go to their Facebook page or their Google review and see if there's a lot of other complaints that are the same. If they are, I take into consideration that this is probably not an isolated incident, and I make a report. But Suddenlink didn't have a Facebook page for out here that you could leave a review, so I just felt like I don't understand why some places are allowed to have a monopoly. There's only in a lot of places in the world. I'm not saying it's that way here, but like you're forced to deal with that business. It's not just business. It's a way of life. It's society. It's religion. It's the norms. It's like everything is forced on us all the time.
Yeah, and it's not always necessarily a bad thing, I guess.
Right.
A lot of people complain about the town I'm from down the road here, Greenville. A lot of people complain about the electric utility service being a monopoly. If you live in the Greenville city limits, you absolutely have to have the Greenville provided power. But in the times that I have lived outside of Greenville and had to use the other power companies, my bill living in Greenville is a hell of a lot less than what it was using those other services. Yes, we're not allowed to have a choice, but it's a cheaper damn choice.
Really?
So yeah, it really is.
That's one thing I love about living out here is electricity is so cheap. I think we pay like $150 a month usually.
And I'm not lobbying for GEUS. I mean, unless they want to pay me.
They got nice people working at Juice though.
But there are, But yeah, I'm not lobbying for them. This isn't a commercial for GEUS by any means. But I'm just saying, people, if you've never lived anywhere but Greenville, the electricity is a lot cheaper there than it is anywhere else.
I guess because we live in small towns, we're forced to deal with certain situations, certain bias and things like that. But like you're saying, there's a lot that comes with it too.
Yeah, yeah.
The whole customer service, the whole Southern hospitality, the culture really rings through in these smaller towns. So you got to be thankful for it. But sometimes,
It's
you know,
home.
you get your bill or your freaking internet or your TV stops working for a week. You start freaking out like, oh my God, this is the worst thing could ever happen.
Oh man.
And it's not.
I've been lucky to travel. I've traveled the whole country from top to bottom, left to right, and I took 45 trips to New York City in the past 5 years.
Wow, that's a lot of fun.
Just talking to New Yorkers about, of course, you know, they're
1,400 miles.
Yeah, they're interested in your culture. They're really interested in your culture, the culture from the South. But then you start to tell them things about, you know, what we pay for land or homes or utilities,
Like, what?
and they just freak out. I know the smallest apartment on the edge of Central Park there, and I'm sure it's gone up since I've researched it because I was doing research for a book I was writing. 10 years ago, an apartment off of Central Park West was $5,000, and that's the cheapest one.
Wow.
A month.
So
$5,000 a month.
What were you doing up? I mean, you go up there for book writing? Is that what?
I was going up there for my day job, which was it's an art logistics company.
Man.
And so we were going to all the museums.
I don't know if it is, but it sounds really cool.
It was a really really cool thing. I don't do the traveling anymore. I sit in an office in Dallas now, but I don't do the traveling anymore. But I was going everywhere a lot. New York, LA, Seattle. I mean, I went everywhere and saw some really cool stuff. But it was for some book research. I was working on a sequel. I had a book come out a while ago titled A Taste of Home, and it was recently re-released because I signed with a different publisher. And I was working on the sequel, and the sequel was going to take place in New York City. And I'm like, you know, I'm having some trouble with this because, you know, when I wrote A Taste of Home, it happened in an area kind of like Greenville. Some of the people that have read it have sworn that I wrote it about Greenville. And I guess I'd be lying a little bit if I said it wasn't an influence. But I was writing the next one, and it was going to take place in New York City. And, you know, you can read about New York City all you want on Google, or, you know, you just can't feel it. You can't feel it. You can't smell it. You can't hear it. You can't experience the energy of New York City unless you go there. And the Wikipedia page is not going to help you out. So
you got to go. You got to go.
I went the very first time and stopped in this little bitty pizzeria off of Broadway called Broadway Pizza, and I ate my pizza, and I walked outside, and I just stopped and shut my eyes and just tried to kind of just feel it and, you know, just take it all in.
It's another world.
It is. And then 44 trips later, I mean, I've seen it all. I took one weekend and just took a Ghostbusters trip, like went to all the filming locations that they did in Ghostbusters. So
that would be a lot of fun. I spent the 6 years I was in the service. I spent 5 of the years up there and up in New Jersey, which is relatively close.
Right. Yeah.
And I remember one of the first times I wound up in New York City. I was in my old pickup truck, my old Ford F-150 flare side, and which it did not fit in.
No, not at all.
Early 2000s, but I wound up on Main Street or whatever, one of the streets. There's like 185 streets or more. I don't know. It's like there's another number every corner.
Right, right. It's laid out like a grid.
Right.
It's very smart.
But it's a totally different planet, especially with even then. This is 2001, 2002. There's, you know, big TV screens and LED screens and lights and in a comparison to down here. And then you get into the way people live and their lives, and even when you travel outside of the city, how close everything is together.
Yeah.
You know, I miss it sometimes, man.
There's a lot of people that doesn't realize that you go so many miles outside of New York City and you're in the boonies.
Yeah.
You're in like the mountains, the woods. I heard stories. I was actually staying at a hotel in New Jersey outside the city because that was the best way to go anyway, was to get you a hotel somewhere in New Jersey across the river and just bus over into the city or take the train over. Because your hotels are going to cost you about half of what they do if you get a hotel inside the city. But I remember sitting at a bar in Olive Garden. Yeah, Olive Garden. But that's not one of your sponsors, is it? Before I start talking shit on Olive Garden. I remember just talking to people at the bar about, don't go down this road because it leads up this mountain or whatever. And there's still Indian tribes that live up there that don't have any, communication or contact
Oh, wow.
with modern society, and there's hikers that have gone
Really?
missing, and yeah, it's like
I never knew that.
right outside of New York City. I mean, this guy was probably full of shit.
You never know,
he was
though,
probably
man.
full of shit.
There are some country folks
But
up there.
it sounds like some cool stuff.
It's just there's so many people, even out in the country. There's just like there's people everywhere. Like where we're here in town, you'll have like a patch of a neighborhood. You'll have this Azalea and 19, and then you'll go across the bridge 3 or 4 miles, and there'll be another neighborhood. Then you'll go down the highway, and there's another neighbor. But there, it's just houses. And even out in the country, they might be tucked into the brush or whatever, but there's one after the next. Then, of course, you'll have the big ranches, where
Right.
they have like the racing horses and stuff, but that's not that common.
Yeah.
But it's more common than you expect, Whenever I remember thinking New Jersey, they called it the Garden State. I'm like, they shouldn't call it the Garden State. They should call it the Garbage State.
The Garbage State.
Because I just had this picture in my mind of like industrial housing and projects and apartments and like low quality life. And when I got there, it's beautiful. It was amazing. I was in shock, honestly.
The further you get away from New York City, because the towns, the cities that border New York City are like that. They're very industrial and they're very trashy.
Yeah,
but
Newark.
if you get away from Newark and start hitting the country, it's very like Norman Rockwell. Those paintings of like maybe 50s and 60s America. It still looks like that.
Yeah.
So,
where's the most shocking place you've ever been?
Oh man.
When you step foot on the ground, you're like, oh shit, this is something different.
Seattle.
Seattle.
I've
never been there.
Seattle is great. The first time I ever went to Seattle, it was my very first trip with the company I work with was to Seattle, and we ended up staying a weekend there. And I grabbed a backpack and an old Army canteen, and I took a 3-mile hike up to Jimi Hendrix's grave.
Oh wow!
And just sat there for a while. There's a poem and a poetry book I did a few years ago that it's not available anymore. I took it off the market, but there's a poem in there that I sat and wrote at Jimi Hendrix's grave. So,
oh man!
Yeah, so it was.
I like to see
cool.
that sometime.
Yeah, there's like a wicker basket on top of his grave. That, like people that come there,
That's
they just throw a joint in there, And
Really?
There's like a stack of joint. I don't know if it's like the thing at the convenience store where it's like give a penny, take a penny, but that's.
I've got to go up there. There's certain grave sites. I've been with a band that we played a show with one time. We went to Stevie Ray Vaughan's grave.
That's nice.
It's like that. People pretty much make a shrine. It's just kind of neat how people.
Yeah, they do
moved,
that. They
man.
do that with like the guys from Pantera.
Yeah, Phil and Dimebag.
Yeah, they do that. I've seen that crazy
that's
stuff.
That's an American thing.
Jim Morrison's grave though in Paris is like that too.
Really?
It's like constantly just trash.
In Paris, Texas?
No. Paris, France.
Paris, France.
Yeah, Jim Morrison.
That makes sense. Yeah, yeah.
No, we'll take him if they're looking to get rid of him. We'll take him. Bring him to Texas. We'll take Jim.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that he was buried over there.
Yeah, I think that was where he was living when he died, and they buried him. They buried him there. So.
Man, there's a few places I've been to that were just weird. I remember when I got to Korea, that was kind of weird because Osan Air Base is where we were at, because it was kind of broke down and it just looked dirty and not that developed. Bulgaria was kind of the same way. Germany, I felt like that because you had one of the first. We're military guys, One of the first places we went to was to the stairs.
Yeah.
You want to go see this. Yeah, and these women are on display in these glasses, and I'm like, this is like, I feel like this city is a dirty film store.
Right.
But it was very clean. It was very, and they were tasteful.
And a lot of people think, that L.A. Like Hollywood, and I lived in Los Angeles for a short time, and I fell into that, growing up being a movie junkie and a television junkie. You think Hollywood is just, the be all end all, that it's going to be so amazing, and then you get there and it is so trashed out and junky and drug infested, homeless. Just I
imagine the traffic is a nightmare.
Oh, it is. It's.
Think Dallas traffic.
It really is. It's bad. Like one day, and it's unpredictable too. One day you can take a trip to Disneyland, and you can make it there. You can make it to Anaheim, 45 minutes outside of LA, no big deal. And you decide to go back on the following Friday, and it takes you 4 hours. So
wow. Oh man.
Yeah, it's nuts.
When I first got out of the Air Force, spent a lot of time working in the city, and I don't do traffic too well, man. I don't do traffic. That's why I gotta stay out in the country.
Yeah, I mean New York traffic makes sense. L.A. traffic does. Dallas
Yeah.
traffic does not
No,
make
it
sense.
doesn't. It doesn't.
They have barely over 1 million people.
So
and
when you say it makes sense, I'm gonna let you paint this picture. I'm thinking about roundabouts and jug handles, but
it's
you have to
New
explain
York
to some of
City
these
traffic
folks.
makes sense. Everybody, from Jersey and the surrounding area, the surrounding boroughs in New York City are all trying to get into Manhattan because that's where they work. So
Yeah.
you would expect millions upon millions of people to have that kind of traffic, but there's an honor system.
Yeah.
You get a fender in there, it's yours, and nobody challenges
Yeah.
for that spot because you want it fair and square. In Dallas, there's barely over 1 million people, and there's a pecking order.
Yeah.
Whoever has the nicest vehicle
Biggest.
or the biggest pickup wins, no matter what, and they will run you the hell over,
Yeah,
whether
they
you
will.
like it or not. So I drive to Dallas 5 days a week. So yeah, it's horrible.
When I got to up north, you probably had this happen before too. People would come up to me and say, "You're from Texas, aren't you?" I don't know if it was the way that we talk or the way we act, but there is a different aura or swagger about folks from Texas.
Right.
And like you'll have folks here in the left lane who are like, "I'm not in any hurry today. I don't want to put my car through any extra stress. I'm driving in the left lane. I don't care if the speed limit's 70. I'm driving 55." You have this here.
Yeah.
That's this entitlement to do what we want. That's a Texan. I think that's a Texan way. By God, I'm gonna do what the hell I want to do. And I think up there, it's more. I gotta get somewhere. I gotta get this done.
Yeah.
And you get that. That's where people I think see the disconnect with there's no hospitality up there because you go into like a Wawa or a 7-Eleven and they're like, what do you want, kid?
Yeah.
And they're okay,
Yeah.
thanks. All right.
Yeah. Get your shit and get out.
Yeah.
You
There's
know?
no. Well, hey there. How you doing?
Yeah, no, there's really not a lot of hospitality. I mean, and it's not rude either. It's they have things to do as well, and they're trying to do them, and you're stopping them from doing those things.
Yeah.
So, and that's why everybody, people all the time that have never been to New York and they're planning a trip to New York, they're like, oh man, they're gonna think I'm weird, and I'm like, no, they're not gonna care. They're not going to be looking at you. They're not going to be paying attention to you. As a matter of fact, if you try to get their attention, they're going to think you're weird.
Yeah.
Because they're doing their own thing. I learned to perfect a New York accent so they wouldn't think I was dumb. And you'd be surprised how much it makes.
Really?
It makes a big difference. If you walk in there and you're like, hey, Saul, how you doing there, Saul? Hey, listen, I got this art over here for you, and
I could never do that.
Yeah, we're gonna give you this art, and then we're gonna get the hell out of here, all right? And yeah, get it. But if you walked in there like, hi, I'm Luke Bryan. If you go in there and you talk like Luke Bryan,
oh man, you do voices
with your skinny jeans and.
It sounds like you do voices.
I do from time to time. I'm not that good at it. Other people will argue I'm not that good at it.
Who else do you do?
Do
you do the president?
I cannot do the president.
You can't do the president. It's hard. I've tried.
I cannot do the president.
I can't do any impersonation.
But I don't know what I can do and what I can't do. It just kind of happens spur of the moment, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I had avoided Luke Bryan music for a very long time, and
Bubblegum country.
I heard some guys have an afternoon show on the radio in Dallas, and they were doing their impression of him. So I'm like, man, I know who this guy is, but I've never heard his music. I've got to listen to it. So I pulled up like his catalog on Spotify, and I took the most popular song he had on Spotify. I'm like, I'm going to listen to this and see what the attraction is.
Oh man.
And I hit play, and it starts out, and he's like, and I'm. What the heck? It sounded like it was going to start out to be some kind of country rap. And he's like, I got that real good, feel good stuff. And I'm like, stop now. It can't get any better. Stop.
Oh,
So, no, I'm not a Luke Bryan fan. But,
man. Is that Drink to That All Night? Is that the song?
Oh, God. I can't. I don't even know. And then there's the one about the corn and the whiskey and everything. But that's a little bit more country-ish.
Yeah,
The country that I grew up on, George Strait and Alabama and Travis
You know what
Tritt.
song he wrote? And talking about country song, it's pretty country. Billy Currington's Turnip Green song. Good Directions is what it's called. Good
And
Directions and Turnip Greens.
So he writes songs for other people too.
He did at one point, I guess. He wrote that song.
So
he's not like Chris Stapleton, where he was like in a cave somewhere writing hit after hit.
Right. Jeez, man.
That guy, man, is somebody that's like tried to, be somewhat of a working musician. Whenever you watch someone like him on like a live performance on stage or something, or even on on YouTube, you're like, I don't think I'm gonna do this anymore.
It's so hard to do. Whether
I'm not good enough.
if you're an artist, it's so hard to do now.
Yeah.
Whether you're writing books or you're making music.
Do you get that feeling when you read another?
The internet has turned anyone into a star as long as they have a following. It doesn't matter how good the book is or the music is. As long as you have a following, you're famous. And a lot of really good talent just falls by the wayside and goes unnoticed because, once again, whoever the loudest person is who everybody's looking at. There could be a really quiet person that has a lot of talent and nobody reads their stuff or nobody listens to their music because they're not acting like a fool on the internet.
It's really scary if you think about it. Like, just think about America. We like to savvy ourselves with one of the greatest nations in the world, right?
Right.
And that's because we're one of the most powerful. We've got a lot of money. We've got a lot of great people, a lot of really bright, intelligent, gifted people, and they come from other gifted, bright, and intelligent people. And there was I'm not saying evolution, but there's a certain growth that goes on with society and civilization because of education and learning and teaching, the youth. And as people grow up, they gather more information. But with the advent of technology, there's been this spike in how fast everything has been advancing.
Right.
And like you think about just 10, 20 years from now, if we've already got like virtual reality stuff that you can play and toy with, what are we going to have in 10 or 20 years? And what's the purpose of anything?
I don't know how it could get any bigger than that. But, like you were saying, America and how we think what we are the best at this and we're the biggest and the baddest and the most awesome.
We do think
and once again, we're only as good as the person placed above us. We're only as good to people from outside of this country. We're only as good as the loudest one among us because that's all they see. They don't see you and I, although it would be nice if they saw you and I.
They'd have a different
interpretation. Yeah, everybody share this podcast and we'll make it happen. But they see the one placed above us and the loudest, and whether that is Donald Trump or Barack Obama.
I'll tell you who they see. They see Bad Baby, the girl. Cash Me Outside. Can you bring up the Cash Me Outside girl? That's who they see. That's who foreigners see when they look at Americans.
But they think that we're all like that. Just like I'm sure there are some of us that thought everybody in Iraq is like Saddam Hussein.
Yeah.
And there's not. And not everybody in Afghanistan was like Osama bin Laden. But that's what we saw. Because
there's still a lot of people that we're around all the time that think that every Muslim is bin Laden.
And people outside of this country think we're all Donald Trump. They do.
Well, a lot of us are, though. I think that's the thing that can relate. And everybody's like, yeah, he's like me.
For a few hours a day, maybe that's not a bad thing. But, for the other hours of the day, it might be a bad thing. I think the guy's doing the best he can do with the tools provided. Somebody needs to take away his cell phone. Just a trial period.
Just the Twitter.
A trial period of taking away his cell phone just to see if things get better. It's the first rule of troubleshooting,
Yeah.
Just see
Take
if
the phone away. So I just turned on the counter on my phone the other day to show how much time I'm using my cell phone, and I use it for all kinds of stuff. Flipboard. I got an iPhone. I got Apple TV. I got Apple everything I can have. And so I use it a lot to do my work.
Fanboy.
But I still spend too much time on it, And so the tracker's showing I spend 6 hours a day on there. That, of course, is time laying in bed in the morning before I get up and do my daily routine, at night before, in the car ride, not while I'm driving, where I'm riding around with somebody or whatever. When you're waiting around, this happens. You have downtime. Everybody does it. But for you to be on Twitter that much, there's got to be a significant amount of time that if you just shut that one thing down, like you could do some other stuff. Maybe
Yeah.
get the wall built faster, or maybe
Yeah.
play some more golf, or
Write a
talk
song.
to some campaign, write a song. Yeah,
Write another book.
do something productive.
That's I found out that one thing in my life for a very long time that was taken away from my creative time was drinking, and I've actually
yeah.
I've gone 8 months without a drink now, so successfully.
Well, congratulations.
In those first 3 months, I wrote an entire new novel in just those 3 months.
Wow.
So it's amazing.
I think TV is my vice.
Yeah, it'll do that too.
It's really eye opening when you don't have cable for a while, or you don't have that crutch, whatever it is.
But people have to have it. They think they're gonna miss something.
Yeah.
They think they're gonna miss something, and honestly, I'm cool. I'm cool with missing everything until Army tanks start rolling down Wesley Street. I'm fine. I'm fine.
Right. I don't need to know that.
When I hear those tank treads hitting the asphalt of Wesley Street, that's when I'll get worried. Until then, I think I'll be okay.
I don't think that'll happen. They'll send drones.
Oh, I've seen Red Dawn. I've seen Red Dawn. It can happen. The good Red Dawn too, not the remake.
Oh shit! All right, let's see. What do we got up here on the board? I love Corey. Did you catch the Catch Me Outside girl? So what Chad and I were talking. What Chad? Hold it for a second. What Chad and I were talking about is we're talking about Americans. We've traveled to other countries and we've got a chance to work with a lot of other people, especially in the military. Because believe it or not, there's a lot of people in the U.S. military that are U.S. nationals or whatever that are born in another country,
right.
Puerto Rico, wherever. They come here and they serve in our so you get a chance to work with a lot of different type of people. And what you find out is that they have a perception of us before we ever open our mouth and talk to them. And that perception is of an alpha type personality that believes that I'm the biggest, coolest, toughest kid on the block and I can do what I want. And that's because that's kind of the way we talk. Like, hell damn yeah, we're America. I'm badass.
Right.
And you're badass too. And that's okay, but you got to realize that at the same time we're saying if we're number one, then where are they at on this scale? So when they get a chance to meet us, there's this disconnect. But once you break through that, you get a chance to talk to them. It's a little bit humbling. But what we were bringing up here on the board is that this is the idea that, honestly, because they watch Facebook and they watch TV and they get their information from the media just like us. But instead of having an example of some, normal guys like you and me sitting at a table talking with them, they get, what's her name? What is her?
Does she even have a name? Does it even matter?
She's a rapper now.
Yeah, her name is Danielle.
Danielle?
Is that her stage name?
Let's see it, Corey. Bring it up for us.
She's a rapper. She's not a stripper yet.
I just want to hear the Catch Me Outside. Can we hear the
Yes.
Catch Me Outside? How about that?
I don't even need to. I don't want to. And
Oh man.
And so
I just want to know, what is her mom doing? She must be working.
Because I think she has this role.
I don't know.
plays.
My mom would have took me outside. Is what would have
Yeah.
happened.
It's very protective. And
Maybe you have to find a mixed clip or something. This is the full episode Corey's got pulled up here. But yeah, you guys I guess could look it up. But
Everywhere we go, though,
there's some fool on the street.
Whoever the loudest person on the internet is at the time, or the loudest person on the television is at the time, that's who they think we are. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sure during World War II, they all thought we were John Wayne. Now
We all thought we were John Wayne.
Yeah, well, we kind of did. Yeah, that was back when we could win a war. They all thought we were John Wayne. Now, I mean, who's head idiot right now?
What
All
about
of
the
us.
Star Wars alien that was paranormal living in the haunted house? That
What?
was being haunted by Brandon Woodruff.
What?
What the hell are you talking about, dude?
You read like 5 topics and put them all together.
All right, so I guess Corey is telling us we're stalling here, so he's got some incentive. So I want to hear about some aliens.
You want to hear about some aliens?
I'm fascinated. I don't know if I'm on the. I ride the fence about so many things. I don't know if I believe that they're too far away to ever travel to us in our lifetime, and they could actually be versions of ourselves in the future coming back in time, or if they're just government, operations or entities or aircraft or whatever that mimic things that are futuristic that we can't understand, or if there's actually aliens that have figured out a way to travel here. But I think all those possibilities are realistic, and one of them has to be real because there's too much evidence as far as photography, sightings, videos, things like that. Okay, go.
Oh, aliens. I was one of those people that was bold enough to think that we were the only living entities in the entire universe before I went into the military. And then one night I'm sitting outside. Swear to God, I hadn't been drinking. I started to look up at the mountain range. I was stationed in Fort Huachuca, Arizona, which is the southeast corner of Arizona. It's not too far away from Tombstone. One of the only places I've ever been incarcerated at. Tombstone.
My favorite movie.
Woohoo! If you're gonna get arrested,
I'll be your
get arrested in
Huckleberry.
Tombstone. So I was looking up at the mountains one night. Sky's just absolutely beautiful out there in the desert, and I noticed some lights up on the mountain, and I thought maybe it was like a Humvee, or they're doing maneuvers up there and they're driving around the mountain. Well, then the lights jumped from one mountain top to the other, and I'm like, okay, that's totally not a Humvee.
Wow.
What the hell is that? So I watch it forever, and this is back before digital cameras where we had to get film developed. And I took the camera outside and I wasted a whole 36 exposure just taking pictures of these lights. And I sent it to the military PX to get it developed, which is a mistake.
Oh wow! Oh,
Which is a mistake. So I get the film back, and there's maybe 3 out of the 36 photographs in there. Just
Oh,
3, and it's like one of me, one of my kids, something. Nothing that has to do with me
Oh,
going
man.
crazy with the camera taking pictures that night. So I pull out the negatives, because even if something doesn't develop, it's still going to be on the negatives. No, the negatives were cut out too.
Oh wow!
So that's
But
my
see,
alien story.
That's the thing. How do you know? I mean, was it an alien? Was it some government vehicle? It was something.
Yeah.
It's perplexing to me.
I spent many nights out at White Sands Missile Range during my Army days, just looking up at the night sky, just wondering, what the hell those things are flying around all over the place.
I wonder if. So, are you familiar with Nikola Tesla?
Yes. Oh yeah.
Okay, so his inventions were just beyond imagination. Some of them, there's conspiracy theorists out there that think that the government still have, I guess, came and took a bunch of his information and have locked it away in a vault somewhere where only they have access to and stuff like that. If that stuff is true, these people think that he learned all this information from like telepathic communication with aliens.
That's a possibility.
With aliens. So if that is possible, if maybe they're on another galaxy or another planet that's 8 million light years away from us, too far to travel to get to us, maybe I'm just proposing an idea. I'm not saying I believe it, so people don't think I'm crazy. I mean, I am crazy, but not that crazy. But suppose all these sightings, everything we're seeing, are recreations that we've made from these telepathic messages that we've received from these aliens, 10 million, 15, 20 million light years away from us.
There's a lot of people that think it might be our future selves. Like somewhere in the future we've invented
Yeah.
time travel, and there's a way to test that out. I mean, if I'm 45 years old. Let's say I live another 20 years.
Mhm.
Okay, let's say I make it to 65. And the way technology is going, I mean, you think if we could do something like that, maybe we could do it in the next 20 years. So if time travel is possible within my lifetime, I'm going to go back and knock on your front door right this second.
We'll wait.
Nope. Nope, not in my lifetime.
No.
So no. But yeah, the alien thing. It's a pretty bold statement to think that we're the only living beings within this solar system. Didn't was it Harvard scientists not too long ago detect something floating around in space? And it's not something that's in an orbit either.
You're talking about the Dyson sphere.
They think maybe it's a probe from an alien civilization that's
Oh
kinda
no, you're talking about the asteroid that we talked about before.
Yeah, it has a propulsion system. It's not an orbit.
It accelerated.
With anything. Yes.
It accelerated, and well, they're saying now that the gravity from Earth or the sun or something pulled it and caused it to move, but they still can't explain the shape of it. What is it? Oh, Mau Mau? Is that the name of it? They can't explain the shape of it and the fact that there was no tail. There's, like with comets.
Right.
There's
Yeah.
So there's people that propose it could be like a alien spaceship disguised as a rock. It could be part of a wind sail, like a light sail that they use to part of their propulsion system that's broken off and float. There's all these different possibilities, but the one that is scariest to me is like you're saying, it's propulsion, how it changed direction and it actually accelerated.
It's like they're
Yeah, there it is.
Oh
my.
It looks like a turd.
It does. Space turd.
Space turd.
That reminds me of Joe Dirt when he's driving around this pet rock, this space rock.
It's just you and me, meteor.
He puts his gum on it. That's what he finds out later.
Does he put ketchup on it? He's eating French fries out of it.
My favorite is when
There's a space turd, son.
when he's got the rocket that's actually the septic tank that's on it.
Yeah. Oh man, that's good stuff.
But maybe it is. Maybe that is something from somewhere, and they're peeking in on us. And I'm sure they can see if they just watch CNN for 5 seconds, they can tell that we're not ready. Turn around and go back home. We're not ready yet.
Well, there's also talk that there's a dark planet out there somewhere in our solar system, and it has a abnormal orbit that it only comes around every once in a while into our solar system. And I don't know if there's anything talking about being related. I'm just suggesting. Wonder if this thing is real and it's collided with some, some meteor or comet or some planet's moon, and this is just a piece of it floating. But still, the acceleration thing just makes it so. Is that it? Planet 9? Planet 9, Neptune, Uranus. Is that Uranus or Uranus? When we were kids, I think they were saying.
It's not
Uranus.
my anus. It must be your anus.
It's yours.
Not mine. I'm not
Planet
claiming it. 1, 2, 3,
9.
not it. I don't know anything about this subject. Actually, I'm gonna go home and read lots.
It's kind of. I'm just thinking. You see all these movies that have these apocalyptic theories and everything, and how the government keeps everything secret because they don't want to cause mass hysteria and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I wonder if there is something like this out there, and maybe they know that it's coming our direction or something.
That's a possibility. I guess it was like that in Armageddon.
Yeah,
they keep it for the very last second.
I've watched. You think about. If something comes at us, we have the technology to destroy it or whatever and move things. But when these things are like the size of Texas flying through the air, it's a piece of mass, a piece of rock. It's huge. It's thousands of miles around in diameter. Not this one, but there's ones that come through that are this size. And even this one, I think this was like 3 or 4 football fields in size.
Yeah.
Not very big. But you couldn't just destroy it with a missile. You couldn't just shoot a laser at it. It would fragment. There would be debris.
And every time one of those come close, about a week before it does a flyby, NASA will say, this one's coming really close. So and NASA would never say that if it was going to hit us, because they wouldn't want everybody freaking out. We would just either die in our sleep or in morning traffic, one of the two. So it's, the whole alien thing, they wouldn't want us to know. I'm sure some people know. I know there's a lot of people that think that, they're here and they're working with the government.
Yeah.
And there's
the
different
lizard people.
The lizard people and the grays, and that's just they're just creepy anyway. Every time I see a picture of one of those guys, I'm like, I was watching a documentary not too long ago on Netflix about sleep paralysis, and the way that these people would talk about seeing creatures while they were going through sleep paralysis is very similar to what a lot of people describe as the gray aliens with the big eyes.
I've dealt with some sleep paralysis where something startles me or something starts to wake me up, but I don't quite wake up all the way, and it's almost like I can see out the crevices of my eyelids. I'm aware, I can hear some sounds, and I can even try to make noise, but all that comes out is like a gargled
right.
I can't move. It freaks my girlfriend out, but is that sleep?
That's kind of like sleep paralysis. There's
it's like you're in a dream, but it's not.
Right. A lot of different symptoms. Have you ever had felt like maybe you're waking up from sleeping and you feel like someone's sitting on top of you, but no one is sitting on top of you.
Yeah, or you're falling.
Yeah, or you're falling. It's a really
That happens to me a lot.
It's a really creepy
I
documentary.
jump into bed. You do that? You jump into bed. Like, oh god.
Yeah, it's a really creepy documentary. I don't remember what it's called.
Oh, I'd love to see it.
It's on Netflix. I don't remember what it's called, but it's very damn creepy. It was probably the scariest thing that's on Netflix, and it's a documentary.
It's about people theorizing that
it's about sleep paralysis. I don't know. Could you? Is there any way to Google
sleep paralysis
that?
on Netflix?
Like it's a sleep paralysis documentary on Netflix.
Oh, he's got something up here.
And it's scary as hell.
Yeah, it is a scary feeling. You're helpless. You can't move. You're conscious.
Yeah, well, when they're doing like
semi-conscious,
the recreations is
the nightmare.
Yeah. Yeah, there we go.
Write this down. The nightmare.
Yeah, I would highly recommend it. And
see, this kind of stuff I can get into because it's not some unrealistic,
right?
It's like Scream. They keep falling down in the woods. This is something you could get stuck in your sleep, guys.
Yeah,
it could happen to you.
Is sleep paralysis based on more of a fight or flight instinct, or did they go into that?
It's not really anything that I've ever researched. The paranormal research that I did all these years ago now. It seems like all these years ago. For 10 years, I did a lot of paranormal as scientific as you can get with paranormal research.
You had like all the little machines.
Oh yeah, still have sitting in a closet collecting dust because I don't do it anymore. But I did it for 10 years. One of the novels I wrote was actually based on my research journals from doing paranormal research around here in this area. Not
really.
Some places not too far from where we're sitting right now.
Really? Okay. So I'm glad you said that. So I wonder if I can say this. I can ask you now. So if someone was killed in a house, say this person I know lives in a house and maybe their parents may have worked in law enforcement for a long time, and there's rumors going around that the person that built the house was actually murdered in it, and they believe that his spirit kind of remains around. Is there a way you could, even if you don't have any sightings or anything like that?
I did several different investigations in what was for a while an old bed and breakfast somewhere in Hunt County. I won't say where, but the house does have quite a history to it, and they say that the person that built it is bricked up behind the fireplace.
Oh wow!
And got a lot of really strange electromagnetic readings in there. A lot of energy spikes, a lot of EVPs, electronic voice phenomena.
This guy I know would love to have you come to his house.
Yeah, I haven't done it. I haven't
You'd
done
probably
it
be
in a
moving
while.
shortly after.
I haven't done it. I have a book that's out right now called Diary of a Gonzo Ghost Hunter, and what it is basically as I was doing this paranormal research from about 2005 until 2012. I was writing journals also, and it went kind of Hunter S. Thompson at times too, where it's really gonzo. I'd go off on these little tangents about life and how I could, associate them with the research I was doing at the time. And I gave all these journals to an author in London who tried her best to make sense of them all and turn them into a novel. So it's a novel that a lot of people will think is fiction, but it was actually my life for about 7 years.
Wow.
So yeah, it's called Diary of a Gonzo Ghost Hunter. And
Diary of a Gonzo Ghost Hunter.
And I did.
Is everything? Do you have that on iTunes?
I think it might be on iTunes. I know it's on Amazon Kindle and it's available paperback, Barnes and Noble.
So is everything at iTunes Book now? Is it available on audiobook? Is that a thing?
Not everything.
I'm one of those guys when I got to take a trip somewhere, a long trip. I like to listen to talk, and that's a great time for me to read a book.
Amazon purchased Audible. Amazon owns everything now.
Yeah.
Amazon purchased Audible. And it depends on who your publisher is. I only have one of my novels that's on an audiobook, and that was something that we went out and hired a guy. We actually held auditions, and this guy had the best voice. Yeah, actually, Cody Jinks was actually interested in narrating this
Really?
book for a little while.
Wow.
I was told somebody that's really close with Cody Jinks. He said he was interested in doing it for a while, but Cody's schedule, as you know right now, is just crazy. That guy's blowing up.
Golly, he is.
Could you imagine listening to a book narrated by Cody Jinks?
That would be really cool.
Just guy. I mean, I'm a 45-year-old man, and I'm a heterosexual man at that, and I just melt
got a
when that
cool
dude
voice.
sings, man.
He's got that really deep.
Yeah,
kinda...
he's got that old school country sound to him, and I can't imagine listening to a horror novel narrated by him. That would have been great. But the guy who ended up narrating it did a really good job. But it's just that one. I'm with two different.
What's the name of that book?
That's A Taste of Home.
A Taste of. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
There is an audio version of that, but it's an older version with my publisher from the UK, which I've taken it since then and kind of tightened it up a little bit, and to where we have the final version that we have now. But it's basically the same story.
That up. It's available on Amazon.
It's on Audible.
On Audible. Okay. I'm gonna have to check that out. Since I've upgraded my cable situation, I'm exposed to a whole new world of technology.
Yeah, it's great though. The only audiobook I've ever listened to was my own.
Yeah.
And I guess it would be like
that's cool.
Hearing
someone else read your words.
Just I don't know. It's almost like like what's it like when you listen to one of your songs? I mean,
oh man, it's tough.
Yeah,
it's tough.
It's the same thing.
You're
it's just now multiply that by 330 pages.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's hell. Dang. You're like, oh, I wish I hadn't have written that, or I wish I would have. I wish I'd have worded this differently, but it's too late.
That's gotta be torturous on yourself.
It's too late. So yeah.
So for now, are there any more plans to venture further into the audiobook realm? Because I think that used to there was bookworms, right? There were certain people, but I think today there's video worms and there's audio bookworms. There are these people that they just have different ways of learning. You know what I mean? Yeah. For some people, they gotta experience it.
One of my current publishers is I'm contracted for audiobooks, but we haven't even discussed it yet.
Really?
I guess that'll happen somewhere down the line.
Is there a whole lot of work with getting the narrator?
It is, and just the last narrator I used, he went out and bought tons of professional recording equipment.
Oh man!
And it takes a really long time. It took him a good 3-4 months.
Wow!
Because you'll go through and you'll stutter or you'll cough or you'll fart or whatever it is you do on the microphone, and you're like, oh shit, I gotta start over. So yeah. So
you ever thought about doing your own voiceovers?
I think my voice is annoying.
What?
I don't know if I'd want to listen.
That's everybody. Everybody thinks.
Yeah,
that.
I wouldn't want to listen to.
You got a great voice. It'd be fine.
Yeah. I've got a voice. I've got a face for radio too. So I've heard people say I have a radio voice.
Do you ever think I think like this with songwriting. I think a lot of people that write songs do. Like, it's hard for another person to get the emotion into because they didn't have it. They didn't see the image, the vision you saw when you created it.
Right. The 4 songs that I have recorded with a band out of Rockwall, they're called Whiskey Hat. It's not the same Whiskey Hat now that it was then, but they're still pretty good. When they recorded my music, all of it sounds very country.
Really?
And it was not country when I wrote it. But it works.
Yeah.
I like it.
Whiskey Hat.
It. Yeah.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah. Yeah, they're a bunch of good guys.
Taste of Home. Okay, Corey brought it up on Amazon. So you can get it on, Kindle, just $5. That's a good deal. And the paperback. You know what? That's the thing I've noticed. A lot of people are collecting books again.
Yeah.
That's really neat. People have a real value for nostalgia. Same thing with the wax, the vinyl records and everything.
I mean, I have a Kindle, and when I'm doing book reviews for the local newspaper, I prefer to read it on a Kindle.
Really?
Because I can just take it out anywhere. I guess you could do that with a book too, but it's so much easier to have them all just centralized in this one little thing.
Yeah.
So
20 books in one.
Yeah, I've got hundreds of books
material.
on my Kindle, and it's actually nice. It's cheaper. I think you can get a Kindle Fire now for less than $30.
Wow.
And even if you don't want to make that investment, there's apps for your laptop, there's apps for your phone where you can read the Kindle book. So
I don't know about Kindle, but as far as the audiobooks, Audible and stuff like that, and the iPhones, work pretty well, which is what I usually do if I'm going to listen to a book. I listen to some motivational speak stuff like Zig Ziglar or
Right. That I've thought about doing that. I don't know if I have any good advice to give people, but that seems to be the way a lot of people turn their writing career into something big, is to write some kind of instructional book or a self-help book. Because let's face it, we're all clueless, man.
Yeah.
We don't know what we're doing.
We think we do.
And the guy that wrote the book doesn't know what he's doing either, but he wrote a book, so it must be good.
I think that a lot of times people are looking for an escape with the stuff that they like to read, and that's just one style, and that's fun. I'm like as curious as the cat, and I want to learn as much as I can. So I often find myself reading stuff that has a lot of introspective, a lot of what am I doing here? What am I supposed to be? What is the importance of all this?
Did I miss a sign?
Yeah, I catch myself doing it all the time. I don't know if maybe it's a sign of narcissism,
I've been accused of that. I like to read stuff about people who have crappier lives than I do, because it makes me feel really good about what I've got going on.
Whole Maury Povich, Jerry Springer effect.
Yeah, the Catch Me Outside chick. I watch her all day long.
Oh,
yeah,
man.
Like, you know what? Things are bad right now. Things are really bad, but I am not the Cash Me Outside chick.
It's just like your parents or your grandparents, and you're telling them about how bad I got laid off from my job and I'm past due rent, and they're like, well, you think you got it bad whenever we had to walk 5 miles uphill both ways. And the thing is, a lot of times the stuff they're saying is true. You know, they remind you. I think you're like, okay, things could be worse. I could be homeless. I could be dead.
I want to go back to my grandparents and go, hey, where's all this damn snow y'all used to have to walk in? Because
it's cyclical.
Yeah, it just, we don't get it. Y'all got all the snow when y'all were young, obviously, and y'all walked everywhere in it, because we don't get it anymore.
I want to know where they lived at, where the hills were up.
Yeah, where are those hills? I know damn well we're all from around this area. Where are those hills?
Everybody picked cotton.
Yeah, everybody.
But, okay, so I live in Sulphur Springs. Honestly, I think everybody might have picked cotton.
You know what?
60, 70 years
ago. Just to say I did it, I picked a little bit of it once when I was a kid, so I don't want to hear it.
It hurts.
It does hurt. It does hurt. If you did it all day, it would hurt worse, but...
Oh, man.
Yeah, I picked cotton, too. I just don't have to tell you how long I did it. 5 minutes. I picked cotton for 5 minutes.
You know what I think? We should figure out a way to rap. Kind of. Can you pull up my screen so I can see if I look goofy or not with this microphone like it is? And can you still hear me good?
I can hear you all right.
Okay.
We're already going.
All right. I like it better with the screen down like this so we can see each other. And I think you should chime in more, because you do have good stuff to add. And there's no reason why you can't. Quit being a pussy about it.
You're so sweet.
Just quit being a bitch and do it. Thanks, Corey. You're the best.
I'm going to leave that on the podcast. I'm just saying.
If we were in jail together, you would totally be my bunkmate. You know why?
No, don't.
You didn't give him a chance, Jack. It'd be good for both parties.
Again, we're already rolling.
Oh, okay. All right.
All right. Are we really rolling?
You see the
okay. All right. So we were talking about we were just talking about Chad's time working for the sheriff's department. And no, we were talking about the haunted houses. I'm sorry, I had to go take a potty break.
Yeah, we're talking about the paranormal investigations. The organization was called PRINT, which is Paranormal Research and Investigations in North Texas. That came from a time when everything had to have an acronym. But it did look really good on a T-shirt. It had a big fingerprint on it and stuff.
Oh, wow, that would look cool.
I still have a hoodie.
Those guys are with the Ghost Squad.
Right, yeah.
The Ghostbusters are here.
When we were doing the Six Flags investigation. We were doing the Six Flags investigation.
Sorry.
We were going in with all our equipment as everybody was leaving, and this was during, I guess, what do they have? Is it Fright Nights that they have there? It was during
years.
Yeah, it was during Fright Nights, and everybody was leaving, and there's like 11 of us walking in, all carrying bags and everything, and they're like, "What in the hell are these people doing?"
It's the Ghostbusters.
So, yeah, we actually went into the Southern Palace Theater there at Six Flags. And you think Six Flags employees, you think these I guess minimum wage kids working their way through college or high school, summer break or whatever. These were all the suit and tie people.
Oh.
Sitting and waiting for us to tell us all the experiences that they had over the years working for Six Flags.
Wow.
And just we're very happy that we were there to try and discover something.
The Lord.
Yeah, just, and that's the way we tried.
The cavalry has arrived.
We tried to keep it as scientific as you could. We didn't allow people that claim to be psychics into our group or anything. Everything. And we can't get rid of anything for you. We're not the Ghostbusters. We can't get it's there. Through research, I think I've come to believe that there's really no such thing as haunted houses, just haunted people.
Really?
So
the entity follows the people?
In my research, yeah.
Man, I've always been a skeptic to that. I mean, I'm just going to tell you flat out. I have always thought it was total bullshit. I've always thought, no, I've never seen anything. I played Ouija. I've been to the different grave sites at night that they're supposed to be haunted, and certain houses, and I've never seen anything. But you talk to enough people that you can see in their face. They're genuinely telling you what they saw, what they experienced, and I mean, unless you're just totally living like an ostrich with your head in the sand, you're gonna start to, at least me, I believe there's definitely something. There's some place we go, right?
We're energy. We're all energy, and energy is neither created nor destroyed, and it's just transferred. So where do we go? But there at the end,
the fourth dimension.
Yes, the fourth dimension. There at the end, I got to the point to where I was, especially when it came to private residences and things, because I had no problem investigating like the landmarks and like Texas A&M Commerce or Six Flags or the courthouse, or I had no problem doing those. But when you go into somebody's private space, when you go into their living space, it's very personal. Like we did one investigation where when we got on site, we didn't even realize how deep this went when we got on site. It was an 18-year-old, I think he was 18, on his 18th birthday, he committed suicide. And the family was still convinced that he was in the house. And there were so many signs that they just weren't ready to let go.
Yeah.
Like, he was a tattoo artist. And, so in his tattoo studio was out in the garage area. The rope that he had hung himself with, part of it was still hanging there. Gosh. They had,
because they cut it, I guess.
Yeah, they had blankets in their house that was made out of all of his clothing, all his T-shirts.
Oh wow! They're really holding that energy.
Yeah, they even had tattoos. The mother and father had tattoos to where his ashes were mixed into the ink.
Oh my gosh!
So and you could just really tell that they were not ready to let go. And it was a very emotional, very, very uncomfortable investigation, because all you want to do is give these people closure, and you want to give them some sort of comfort. And first of all, they believed in what you're doing enough to invite you into their home and in their private space. But after that, it got to the point to where if I could do away with any of those home investigations, I would do it, and I would interview the people on camera and then turn that footage over to someone who worked in law enforcement to see if they could detect whether or not they were lying.
Really?
And as long as, I would go ahead and do the investigation as long as that police investigator couldn't see any deception in the video. If he saw any exaggeration or deception in the video, I would turn it down. I just wouldn't do it anymore.
So it's pretty common to work with law enforcement in that.
I was lucky enough to be working in law enforcement at the time that I was doing this, and I had access to those things. And sometimes it crossed a line.
Conflict of interest.
Right. And this isn't talking about anyone that's currently in a position of power locally, because this deals with the previous sheriff here. He did not like me doing this at all. When I was working for the sheriff's department, he did not like it at all. I think a lot of it
Scare him?
It crossed religious boundaries, I guess, when it came to him. and a family. There's still an unsolved double homicide in this county, and the family had reached out to me. Members of the family had reached out to me because the house was no longer a crime scene, and it was open to the public. As a matter of fact, I think it was on the market being sold, and members of the family reached out to me. The sheriff's department had pretty much just exhausted all their resources trying to solve this homicide, and they wanted to know what I could find with my people and my equipment and my experiences. And this is back in the days of MySpace.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna go
back then.
We're gonna take a
2002,
we're gonna take a trip in the
2003.
way back machine here.
The early 2000s.
I got called upstairs. Got called on the carpet's what we called it. I know you're familiar with that from the military. You get called on the carpet, and it's a printout of basically my alter ego. You know,
Oh, wow.
when everyone at the sheriff's department knew me as this guy. But when I would clock out for the day, I was this other guy,
Yeah.
and constantly doing research and writing about it, and staying the night in cemeteries and haunted locations and things like that. And I thought the sheriff was going to shit a brick,
Really?
and he forbid me for the last 6 months of his term. He forbid me from doing any paranormal research. My choices were to be a ghost hunter and quit my job, or the other way around.
He was
do my
worried
job.
about the reputation. I guess,
Right.
of the
He
department.
was worried about the
Which is
reputation.
understandable.
And this is, this is in the area we live in. We're talking. This is like 2005, 2006, stuff like that. And now it's everywhere.
Really?
It's everywhere. And I don't know. I don't think I'm responsible for it, but I think I'm responsible for loosening up everybody's view
Yeah.
of it around here, because
It's like whenever my girlfriend asks me to open a jar and I can't,
yeah.
and I give it to her, and then
Yes.
she opens it.
Yes.
And I say,
Yeah.
I loosened it up
Yeah.
for you. No,
Yeah,
I'm
they took the top off the paranormal pickles. I just loosened it for them.
You loosen the jar around here.
But yeah, I noticed the Chamber of Commerce a few years ago had a ghost tour at Halloween.
Oh, wow.
And they contacted me and asked my advice, and I hooked them up with some people in the field, and I tried my best to help them out.
This is the Greenville Chamber, you said?
Yeah, the Greenville Chamber.
I love
This
those
is
guys.
before the Byron Taylor days. I think this is when Milton Babb was really big with them. They did that. We were doing our own like ghost walk tours, whatever, there before we decided to hang it all up. Where the old train station down on Lee Street, we would open that up to the public and let them.
That's such a cool place.
Yeah, they'd let them stay the night with us, and we'd feed them dinner, and we would show them what we were doing and how we did it and the equipment that we used, and we would let them do the investigation with us.
Wow.
And we did that 2 Halloweens in a row, and it was just really nice. But that was, like I said, the organization was something that my wife and I shared together. That was our passion. And when we ceased to be husband and wife, I think a lot of that went away with her, because all of that equipment is sitting in the closet collecting dust
Just
right
collecting
now.
dust.
And I think about it all the time.
Is there anything that sticks with you? Like, is there any haunting or place that you've been that you sometimes when you're alone at night you're like, oh my gosh?
I think about the Hall of Languages at Texas A&M Commerce.
The Hall of Languages.
That
sounds spooky.
That it does, doesn't it? That was the last investigation that I was really, really passionate about. They reached out to us because there'd been a lot of rumors and legends over the years about some things that had happened in the Hall of Languages over time, and a lot of people claimed it to be haunted.
Before you go too far in this, I've got a question burning in my mind about the story you're talking about, the tattoo artist still.
Okay.
So did you find any evidence, or was the family just holding on so tightly that they believed that there was an entity there?
There was a very high amount of electromagnetic fields all over that home. Probably a lot of technology that wasn't properly grounded, so they were constantly subjecting themselves to what people in the field call a fear cage. They were constantly living inside of giant electromagnetic fields.
Oh my gosh.
And it does have a tendency to make you hallucinate
So they really
for-
believed what they were
for-
seeing.
They really did believe. They really
That's
did
so
believe
cool.
what they were seeing.
That you say that. You know, you think that people that have had experience in this endeavor are completely ate up with it. Like, oh, every incident is completely real, but sometimes it's not. But that's where you're telling me about the Hall of Languages, and
Yeah.
that's actually something that, for you at least, was very real.
The,
Right?
the Hall of Languages, we actually had it set up to where 3 members of the university police department stayed the night with us. One of the ladies that was going through college there, that was one of the DJs at the radio station at the university, stayed the night with us. I actually ran into her in New Jersey a few years ago.
Oh, wow.
She moved back to New Jersey and became a radio personality there. And then someone that worked for the newspaper at the university too. They stayed with my group, locked in until the sun came up to do this, and we would take them with us, you know, as proof that we're not, you know, your client is a university, you know, and you want to have results. You don't want to be accused of falsifying anything. And things began to get really crazy, like things being thrown down hallways at you,
Oh, wow.
screams that you couldn't explain, noises coming from rooms that were locked that the police department would have to unlock to make sure no one else was in there. And it was just one experience after another. And then when the guy that worked for the newspaper wrote his article, and you might still be able to find this article online, I think it's from 2008 or 2009. His name is Chance Crane. When he wrote his article, he wrote it exactly as he experienced it, which was damn near a horror story. So,
Really?
I mean, he wasn't used to this like we were. I mean, we did this every weekend for years.
You're used to it.
And we got used to it. And a lot of the stuff just scared the shit out of him.
I can imagine.
And he wrote it as such. Well, it was finals week. And there were students that were saying they're not going to go take their finals because they're not going to walk into that building. They're scared to walk into that building now. So the police department issued a statement saying that their officers didn't experience anything, that anything that's in that article is an exaggeration. And it killed our credibility.
Wow. So they denied anything that was going on.
Right.
But so how do they fix a situation like that? How do they deny it and then tell everybody go back to class and then there's haunted stuff around?
No, they're lying. That's all there is
They
to it.
just expect people to
they're
just deal
lying.
with it.
I mean, I could be a total dickhead and throw out the name of the guy right now that said, "Oh, they're lying."
Well, what newspaper did Chance write for?
He wrote for the university newspaper.
He's looking up that article for us. So, what I want to know what the police officer's reaction was, because my dad's a retired cop, and I know
the police officer's reaction at first was typical. First, the night started out, it was typical cop.
Mhm.
You know, the stiff.
Yeah.
You know, this
Rigid.
is my house and I'm allowing you to live in it type thing. And then as the night began to progress, they loosened up quite a bit and they were really interested in what we were doing. And then as the night dragged on into the early morning, it got to the point to where they were running down the hallways trying to find us, going, dude, we just heard this, or
Oh
we
my
just saw
gosh.
this, and oh my God, did you see that? And it just
they were excited.
They were excited. They were right there, like we were turning them into believers.
Really?
And yeah, then
That's a crazy experience.
their lieutenant put them on hush mouth
Yeah.
and issued a statement, and it killed our credibility. And I
So the place is still haunted and still operating today.
you'll still. I was contacted by a guy who was doing some type of interview. He had done some internet research and saw where we had done an investigation, and he wanted to get us on camera to explain it. I don't know if anything ever became of it, because like I said, that was something that my ex-wife and I did together.
Yeah.
That was our passion, and when we ended, it ended.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I think that's really cool, and that's something I haven't ever experienced myself, and I don't know if I want to ever experience it. I definitely wouldn't be the excited guy running down I'd be the excited guy running out the door to my car to somewhere far
well,
away.
Should we do it again and just film it?
No, thank you.
It started out as very, very frightening. We'd find these little country cemeteries out in the middle of nowhere, and it's 1, 2 in the morning. It's pitch black. The closest closest help, if anything was to happen to you, is miles away, and
Oh,
it
man.
started out as really frightening, and then over time you don't get scared anymore.
Really?
I miss that. I miss being scared.
It doesn't even bother you.
It
after a
doesn't.
while.
It doesn't.
You don't
Like,
get the goosebumps.
no,
Nothing.
no movies don't bother me.
Is the chills, the cold chills, is that a real thing? You
That
feel?
that is a real thing. I mean, there'll be like especially. I mean, outdoors, you know, it's a little bit easier to explain because you know you do get cold spots depending on you know what's on the ground and you know humidity and dew point and lots of different things like that. But
You guys, I mean, it was really scientific.
it was we had one guy in our group that we were actually investigating a cemetery. Actually, it was a cemetery, and then we went to some railroad tracks not very far from here, where there's like an urban legend to where you know I think every town has this urban legend.
You park the car on the
You
tracks.
park the car on the railroad tracks, and then you know somebody was cheating on somebody, and they tied the person to the railroad tracks, and when they weren't paying attention, that person was tying their shoes to the railroad tracks, and the train came and it killed them both. And you can see a lantern if you go.
Yeah, I've heard that story.
And what that ended up being, you know, because there were times where we're like, what in the hell is that? You could actually see a light. But what it was is as the railroad tracks began to narrow toward the horizon, vehicles that have the wraparound headlights, when they would go to cross, you know, because there's a lot of trees out here too.
Yeah.
That's all you would see is that one little flash of that headlight crossing that railroad crossing way on down the line. So, you know, we would try everything we could to debunk, you know, what we would experience or what other people claimed, and then whatever was left over we would just dive into and tear apart. We did actually end up catching an EVP that we couldn't make out what it was saying until it was
What's
played.
the EVP?
Electronic voice phenomenon.
Electronic.
Is
like you have a static.
Yeah, you'll record, you know, like now digital. I started out with actual little micro cassette tapes, but digital voice, and you'll be able to hear, you know, voices, you know, speaking that are not anyone that's in your party. And we even got to the point to where we had so many of those that we would even throw the ones out that were within human vocal range. We would only keep the EVPs that were either above or below the capability of the human voice.
So if it sounded like it could have been someone in the room with you, you wouldn't use it.
We would throw it out.
Wow.
If there
Because
was,
people would just be too skeptical.
Right. Yeah. Because there's no way that anyone was.
That's
take
crazy.
It serious.
If it's too real, people won't believe it.
Right. But we did get
Wow.
we did get a voice out of those railroad tracks where it was below the capability of the human voice, and you could only understand what it was saying if you played it in reverse.
Oh wow.
So, and then you go into demonic theory and you know, things being spoken backward, and you know, and then that's another thing that we tried to keep out of it. We tried to keep it as, hey, I've got one of those in my closet.
Corey just brought up an image of a, what is that,
Proximity.
An
Yeah.
EVP.
That's actually an EMF meter. That's a K2 EMF meter.
And you're gonna have to tell me what EMF stands for.
Electromagnetic field or
Okay.
electromagnetic frequency.
So a lot of
can
so
see how
basically this is
response-
detecting for man-made phenomenons that can cause to have
Right.
spiritual entities or even hallucinations.
Right. Well, I mean, electromagnetic fields don't move. Electromagnetic fields are tied to whatever is causing them. So if you just stick one of those in the middle of the table and it starts to randomly pick up, you know, electromagnetic fluctuations, you know, there's a possibility. But then it gets to the point, and we ran into this, where cell phones come into play, and cell phones put off signals. We used to make everybody turn off their cell phone before we'd go into an investigation as well, to keep that from contaminating. I mean, it was very scientific.
Wow, that is fascinating. I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm unique in this way, but I find that stuff just totally, even though I've never experienced anything, it's just crazy to think. And kind of scary too.
Well, I was that way. I was that way for a very long time. I didn't believe in any of that stuff, and anything that I did experience growing up, you know, I would just make something up to explain it because I refused to believe in it. I was born into a family, very well, at least half of it, very religious family, that didn't believe in stuff like that. And I was sitting on the couch one night. Back it up just a little bit more. Okay. The woman I was married to, that we did this together, when we first started dating, she moved in and just casually mentions, oh, by the way, if you happen to be staring down the hallway and you see this 6-foot shadow figure just standing there staring at you, just don't worry about it. He's been following me around since I was a little kid. And I'm like, great, all right. I just paid really good money to get rid of a woman like you, but welcome. So weeks pass, and we're going through our daily lives. We're sitting there watching television. I didn't even have cable at the time. I didn't even know like TV shows like Ghost Hunters or any of that even existed.
Yeah.
And I think we're watching a movie one night, and she begins to tap me on the foot to get my attention, and I look at her, and she motions her head, and there standing in the hallway was what she explained.
Dude, I would jump out of my seat.
I couldn't move. I couldn't move.
So scared you can't move.
All the feeling completely went out of my entire body, and I couldn't move because I couldn't explain what I was looking at.
Oh man.
So the minute that the feeling came back to my body, I did what any man would do. I jumped up and ran toward it because I was going to kick its ass.
Yeah.
You're in my house, you're in my private space.
Yeah.
I don't know what you are, but I'm going to kick your ass. And the closer I got to it, the more it just faded away, and it felt like I was standing in a freezer. When I got to the point it was at, it felt like I was standing in a freezer.
Woo!
So I immediately, we're talking 2005.
My ass would be in a car.
We're talking. We're talking 2005. I crank up my dial-up. Internet, and I start to do research, and I start going to the libraries and doing research, and that's how we got started because I had questions.
Yeah.
I had questions that I couldn't find answers to, so I started to put myself in questionable situations to where I could have another experience like that. And it started out as cemeteries, and then it got to the point to where we got noticed by an old editor from the Herald Banner. I don't remember his name right offhand, but back when Greenville Life magazine was called 903 magazine, there's actually an article about us in the inaugural issue of 903 magazine. We were in the first. He came out and he followed us around all night and wrote an article about it, and then it just blew up after that. We're in the paper all the time. We're getting in people's houses. We're getting in historical locations, theme parks, you name it.
You're there.
And just...
Ooh, and I would not be there. I'm glad I wasn't part of that family. Did your kids grow up with any of this?
I tried to keep them out of it as much as I could.
Yeah, you didn't want to scare them.
And every now and then they would get interested, and we would take them out and do like a little mini investigation, but it never lasted long. They would get really scared. But now my son will be 18 in a couple of weeks.
Oh man!
And he has a big interest.
Really? Think maybe something he might want to look into.
And I'm just, and when you live in such a conservative community and you're trying to make a name for yourself,
it's hard to be taken serious.
As an artist, I will forever be known as the ghost guy here.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's funny, but a lot of times it's not. When I guess a lot of they were holding a meeting or a conference or something at the newspaper, and when they got told I was going to start doing some freelance work, there were two guys that said, "The ghost guy?
The ghost guy?
How much damn longer do I have to be the ghost guy?
Until you die.
I will be the ghost.
Move away from Greenville.
I will be the ghost guy till I die." Well, no, they did articles on us in the Dallas Morning News.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we're
the ghost guy in many places.
Yeah, the ghost guy in many places. But also I say that I've stopped doing it, but I actually sat and I did an EVP session at Jimi Hendrix's grave.
Really?
In Seattle. I've done EVP sessions.
I wonder if fans that die, if there's spirits ever collect at places like that. If there's somebody they were obsessed with.
I would.
Yeah, right? If there's a place you're going to go.
I would. I went into Central Park at night once just to go to the John Lennon Memorial and do an EVP session around there because, I figured if he was hanging out anywhere, maybe it would be there because I don't know if you've ever been there to the John Lennon Memorial before, but all day long, man, there's just people first of all, they're getting their pictures taken on the big Imagine thing, and you have to pretty much wait in line to do that. But there's people with guitars standing around everywhere playing Beatles music all day long.
People are fanatic about the Beatles still today.
Rumor has it that Yoko Ono still lives in the apartment right across the street from Strawberry Fields in Central Park, which is where the John Lennon Memorial is. And she still sneaks down there twice a day.
Really?
Twice a day, sneaks down there in disguise.
Of course.
So, and I never saw her.
No.
I don't know what I'd say to her if I did. It'd probably be angry.
Really?
Yeah.
A lot of people blame her for everything that went wrong with the Beatles because she gives off she's given off, I don't know if she still does today, I don't follow very close, but she seems to be very centered in a selfish kind of way.
Yeah, kind of. Well, I mean, at least she didn't pull the trigger, Courtney Love.
Oh, man. Man, I saw that movie.
Yeah.
How did he get his gun in the trigger guard?
Yeah,
Or his
yeah.
toe?
I actually I know people who have met her before.
Courtney Love.
I know people because she's an artist as well. She paints.
Really? Yeah.
And I know people that have met her, and
I have a feeling what you see is pretty much what you get with her.
Yeah, they say
Strange.
She's not very bath time friendly. I mean, she's kind of stinky.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
She doesn't like to bathe so much.
Yeah.
That's interesting for a woman.
That what I
know a lot of guys that
I've never met her personally. I couldn't say.
Oh man. Now, is there a lot of so? I want to get into more stuff. We've talked about religion earlier. I don't want to go all the way into that. But as far as you said something about demonic experiences and as far as possessions and people being exorcised and things like that, do you have any experience with those kinds of
This
situations?
was the last straw with the paranormal as far as I was concerned. We were contacted by a government agency, which I'm not allowed to mention, and we were doing some private investigations for them. And it got to the point to where I started to feel less and less like me.
Yeah.
And because you're dealing with this government organization, they deal with a lot of negativity. They deal with the worst of the worst of the worst, and you're constantly surrounding yourselves with this negative energy. I mean, we're all sponges anyway.
Yeah.
You walked into a room where somebody's pissed off, and you get pissed off
You
too.
do. It brings you down.
It does, and we're forcing ourselves to be in this environment for extended periods of time, and I started to feel less and less like myself. Almost, I mean, there's a good few months of my life at that point where I have no recollection of it, and my ex-wife, who was a Catholic, dragged me into the church kicking and screaming. And it was at that point where I felt it all go away.
Yeah.
She sat me down, she prayed, and I thought I'd been there an hour or two, and I'd actually only been there 10 minutes. But it just, the minute I walked into the church, I mean, I felt like I was giving like a fat kid a piggyback ride. You could feel the actual weight on your shoulders. And sorry, I didn't mean to offend any fat kids. I'm one of you. I'm one of you.
Poor little fat kids. Don't worry, it's baby fat. It'll grow out of it.
Well, mine's not baby fat, and it's not going away. But
give it time.
Yeah, time and exercise, and I don't have a whole lot of either. So, I just remember sitting down and feeling that weight lift from my shoulders, and that might be the last. Other than the divorce, I think that was the last straw.
Yeah.
Because maybe there was something. Maybe I can't say for sure, but if you were ever going,
you feel like sometimes it would leave with you.
I don't think it's completely gone away.
Really?
There are still times when I feel as though it comes back to visit.
Wow. Just a presence. Just
a presence. I know since my divorce, where my son and I have been living, with my wife no longer around, where the entity that she claims she'd been seeing since she was a child. It's almost like when we split, that entity split as well.
Oh, it's two different.
And part of it came with me,
entities.
And part of it stayed with her. Because, you'll still wake up in the middle of the night and feel like somebody's there.
Oh,
or
man.
You'll catch something out of the corner of your eye, or you'll hear something. And I think once you opened your mind up into this world, there's really no coming back.
No going back.
There's really no coming back. Because if you've never had you've probably had a million paranormal experiences, but you've never had this shocking paranormal experience that opens your eyes up to that world. And I think once your eyes are open to that world, you don't look at the world in the same way ever again. And you get skeptical of every home you walk into, or every dark hallway, or every time you're sleeping and you hear a noise, you want to jump up and investigate.
Yeah.
And yeah, I still have experiences.
Gun shy all the time.
Yeah, I still have experiences from time to time, but my want to jump out of bed and go chase it down with a bunch of electronic equipment, that want is no longer there.
It's not there anymore. Just let it be.
No, I mean, I know what's out there.
But there's really no way to, whenever you have that situation, there's really not any way to get rid of it, I guess.
There's, and if there is, I'm not privy to it. That's not my department. That was, I mean, I do know psychic mediums and things like that. We didn't work with them, but I do know they exist, and we would interact from time to time in a correspondence.
People that are clairvoyant or whatever have an ability to.
And I would, people that are looking to get rid of it. I think most of the people that contacted us just wanted us to prove that they weren't crazy.
Yeah, just to feel like they're sane.
They wanted to be able to show something tangible to all the people that think they are crazy. But I don't think they wanted to get rid of it either, because it is attention.
Yeah, they like the attention.
They like the attention. They like to be able to tell that story at parties.
Tell us another ghost story.
Yeah,
tell us another ghost story.
They dig it, because I know a lot of the families, when you would give them a logical explanation for what they were experiencing, they would argue with you.
Yeah,
they would argue with you. We did one investigation in Oklahoma once, and when we left the house, everybody on my team immediately, like almost simultaneously, got violently ill.
Really?
And we went back to the house and we ran carbon monoxide testing. And they had a huge carbon monoxide presence in that house. Wow. I haven't heard from them in ages. For all I know, they could be dead, because they didn't believe us.
They didn't believe.
They're like, no, this is a ghost. This is a ghost. This is the ghost of Uncle Joe or whatever.
No, it's carbon monoxide
We're
poisoning.
like, no, ma'am, it's you and your family are about to die because you so want this to be the ghost of Uncle Joe.
Oh no.
So we would come across those every now and then.
Man, oh man, and that's real life, But that's really the cool thing about folks that I love, especially creative thinkers, people that are individuals. You take something, an experience in your life, and we've been talking for about an hour now about ghost stories, and I know that you get stuck with that title as the ghost guy, but it seems like you've really kind of turned that into something that's working great for you with these novels. And I know they're dark comedy. They're not like just straight horror novels or anything, but it's interesting, And I'm sure a lot of your stories that you tell in these books are reflecting and probably based on a lot of your real life experiences. So
they are. My career in law enforcement, my military career, even my career now in the art industry comes into play sometimes with what I'm writing, whether it's historical or a city that I went to working in the art industry. It is my life fantasized, I guess.
I guess if folks want to get a perspective of what it's like to live in the mind of a real life, a ghost hunter, a novelist, a storyteller, somebody that's involved in the arts, I would definitely have to recommend checking out some of Chad Derick Miller's material online.
Especially Diary of a Gonzo Ghost Hunter. Pen name C. Derick Miller. But I think it will come up both ways. Actually, I think it comes up both ways. Diary of a Gonzo Ghost Hunter is the most honest and realistic look at paranormal and the paranormal investigation that you're probably ever going to get, because the television shows are all they're exaggerated.
Yeah,
they're ran by producers, just like any TV show.
Hollywood.
And I know they all sign. I know this for a fact from having conversations with people that are on those that were on those television shows. Of course, they get a little truthful and then they get kicked off. They come up with some kind of drama and they get kicked off. It's just like wrestling. But having conversations with people who used to be on those television shows, they do sign production clauses, saying that if ever they do an investigation that doesn't produce results, or if they just have like a boring night and they have an episode that's due, the producers can fake evidence.
Oh wow. Just make it up.
To make it up, to make the story more interesting. I know, because it's like, what's the one? It's got the really loud, muscled up guy. Is it Ghost Adventures? Zach Bagans.
Oh yeah.
You know, he starts every episode is, you know, my name is Zach Bagans. I didn't believe in ghosts until my producer told me I had to. You know, just I can't watch that stuff anymore.
Maybe you could write a novel based on that. You know, some guy that was forced to do this show, and in the middle of the process, he actually started believing.
Yeah, well, I mean, and that's it. I didn't believe in any of this. People would come to me my whole life telling me about their paranormal experiences, and I'm like, you guys are nuts. I can't believe you believe in this crap. You know, and it turned into I became a believer instantly. All it takes is that one time, and I became a believer instantly, and then I just went crazy with it. I can't just leave it alone. You know, it's like when you see a puppy, you have to pick it up.
Yeah.
You gotta love that puppy or that kitten. You have to. You can't not pick it, or a baby. I know women are like that with babies. They got to pick that baby up. You can't not pick that baby up.
Let me hold that baby.
And that's the way it was. I take an interest in something and I run with it. And then I shove it in everybody's face. They get tired of seeing it, and then I choose topics.
You're obsessed.
Yes.
That's the mind of a genius.
I am easily obsessed. It's a good thing I'm not into meth. You know?
It'd be bad.
I am a very addictive personality, so I have to stay away from the drugs.
Oh, man. Well, let's take a little break real quick. Take a break and figure out what I'm looking at. With the rules.
Yeah, rules, man. Gotta have them in place.
I mean, that's what keeps us out of trouble, I guess. But
you're only in trouble if you get caught.
So we were talking about this Death Press head. It's the new publishing company,
right? Death's Head Press. They're a horror publisher. Did I say horror or horror? There is a difference. You have to watch the syllables. If you don't pronounce it, if you don't pronounce it correctly, you've gone to a completely different genre of book.
We're publishing prostitutes.
Yes.
Texas.
Watch out for the paper cuts. No, Death's Head Press is a horror publisher that recently started out of Houston that has signed me to contribute a short story, which I've titled El Paso. If you've ever been to El Paso, it's probably not that far off from what you experienced when you went there. And 17, I believe it's 17 other authors contributed short stories to this book. What would happen today if the book of Revelation came to be? And what kind of craziness would happen? And some of the stories are horror. Some of them are extreme horror. I'm sure you've known a few extreme horrors in your life. I know I have. And some of them are more comedic and dark fiction. Mine is actually more comedic and dark fiction. But those guys they're pulling up and they're coming to this area, Greenville, on February 16th. And the Corner Street Pub is going to allow us to take over for the night to have a book signing and book release party. There's going to be live music from Tommy Cross.
Oh, that'll be fun.
There's going to be, we're trying to do some thematic things that go along with hell. So, of course, there's going to be a lot of Fireball.
Oh, boy.
And we're going to try and come
costumes,
up with
maybe?
Maybe costumes. If people wanted to dress up, I'd be all for that. But 5 of the 17 are actually making the pilgrimage to little old Greenville, Texas. And it's going to be live streamed on YouTube, and they're going to have giveaways. And it's probably, I spend a lot of time at the Corner Street Pub. I'm a Friday night karaoke junkie.
The karaoke king himself.
The karaoke king.
Chad Derick Miller.
Live
at Corner Street Pub.
It might be the craziest thing that's ever happened there.
It sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun.
It's probably going to be a lot of fun. Like I said, I'm about, 8? By the time that happens, I will be nine months sober. And that'll be the night I fall off the wagon. I feel it coming.
Oh no.
That'll probably be the night that I
Oh,
fall off.
man.
Now I might jump back on in the morning. But this is partially in my honor.
We're
It's
gonna get
planned.
you an Uber.
Yeah.
It's arranged. Hey, Corey, you're gonna chime in over there. So Corey drives does the Uber thing. Are you gonna be
Yes.
available on this night, Corey?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He's gonna break out the van.
I mean, we've been advertising it on Facebook. I've got flyers floating around town. All the public's invited. Even if you don't come to buy a book, just come to view the mayhem.
All right.
That's what we're shooting for. We're
and
trying
once
to,
again, what's the name of the event?
It's the release party for the anthology novel And Hell Followed, which is actually being released on January 15th. I believe that's 2 days away from today. It'll be on Kindle and paperback and probably iTunes. And then February 16th is when they're going to come to town and have the release party. So when you get dumped on February 14th, come to the Corner Street Pub on February 16th and have a good time.
So if you guys want to find out some more information about this whole event and some of the authors and the novels that are going to be involved, you can actually, I know they got on the website,
Deathsheadpress.com has a website. There's also,
see if I can get Corey to bring
there's
it up for
also
us.
my website, which is cderickmiller.com, and that's Derek spelled D-E-R-I-C-K, cderickmiller.com. And from there, you can find links to Death's Head Press, plus my Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, my Spotify playlists, everything.
I know a lot of folks that really enjoy Halloween and that whole, the whole festivities, the haunted houses, the haunted landmark,
Yeah.
and, the spirit of it all. And this is another opportunity for folks to kind of get out and get some of those same creative juices flowing and meet some really interesting people.
Yeah,
too.
there's guys.
There it is.
These guys, yeah.
And Hell Followed.
Some of these guys are going to be really crazy. I can't wait to meet
Wild
them
imaginations.
I can't wait to meet them face to face.
Now, there's something that's kind of crazy here at the table. I noticed it's not really crazy. I'm just being a little observant here. I noticed you've got this really awesome ring, and you got a pretty cool matching tattoo. Are these werewolves?
Just wolves, werewolves. I'm a fanatic. I think probably my favorite movie of all time might be American Werewolf in London.
Oh.
So just the transformation sequence in that movie with the traditional special effects, pre-CGI is one of the greatest things ever captured on film as far as I'm concerned. I've always been obsessed with werewolves and wolves and just the dynamic of wolves. And, the my ex-wife is still, or was, because he's dead now. My ex-wife was Lon Chaney Jr.'s great niece.
Oh, wow.
The original Wolfman, the
Yeah.
Universal Monsters Wolfman. So when we used to go out and spend time with her family, I got to see a lot of that old Hollywood memorabilia, and we had Polaroids of him asleep on the couch at Thanksgiving and stuff like that.
That's got to be a big inspiration piece.
Yeah, it was. It was really good with A Taste of Home and Far From Home. They're my werewolf novels that I've written, and just being a part of that family was a big influence on those.
You even got a medallion around your neck, I think.
Yeah, I have an earring on too. I have another wolf tattoo over here. We won't show that one. And then I have one here that just says howl, growl, snarl.
I actually don't have any tattoos. But I've always said if I was going to get a tattoo, it had to have some kind of special meaning.
Right. And
so I'm guessing for you to get the tattoos and the jewelry, that's got to be a pretty big influence. And the author, of course.
Yeah, I was getting a tattoo to coincide with each of my book releases, and then tattoos get expensive after a while. Wow. So I have 3, and I'm not finished. I would like to get this one done on this arm as well, facing the other direction, have it just like that. So.
I guess when you see them, they take you back. You have a memory of that time period in your life.
Yeah, I do. This one means something. This one means something. This one was a total mistake, but I refuse to cover it up. you live and you learn. You know, every time I see it, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that, and I remember why I don't do that anymore.
Drinking that night.
Yeah, I just we're not doing that again. I'm not gonna show that one. That one's personal. We're not gonna show it. I leave it as a reminder of what not to do next time I'm in that situation.
Got to have it there. It doesn't just let it go away, I guess.
No.
we learn from mistakes and new things.
It was a matching. It was a matching tattoo. Somebody else had that same tattoo, and theirs was immediately covered up. But I'm gonna let mine ride.
Yeah. That's kind of cool. That's cool if it meant enough to put it on there in the first place, I guess.
Yeah.
Wear it with honor, right?
Just never forget where you come from. Never forget your mistakes. Build off of them. So, and that's what I'm doing. I'm gonna let it hang there. I'm not gonna cover it up. I'm not gonna do anything to it. It's a reminder of who I used to be, and why I don't want to be that person anymore.
Well, man, this has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I've had a great time.
I'm really excited about the event you got coming up, and it's presenting in Hell Followed. Just one more time, give us the date. It's at Corner Street Pub.
Corner Street Pub, starting at 7 p.m. on February 16th. It'll end when the fire department gets there to put the flames out, or the cops run us out, or Shannon, the owner of the Corner Street, when she says, "Get the hell out of my house."
There's going to be lights. There's going to be sound. There's going to be action. There might even be some flames.
I make no promises. Man, like I said, there's going to be
February 16th.
6 extreme horror authors in the same building at the same time. So I make no promises. Have your mommy drop you off at the door and tell her to give you book money.
Yeah. And don't worry about a ride. We've got Uber in Greenville.
Uber is in Greenville. You know, a lot of people don't know that.
You know, I remember not too long ago, there was only like one.
Yeah.
There was like one. And now, what is there, 2, Corey?
Well, at one time a few years ago when Uber started to get really popular, I think the city council blocked it.
Really?
It said it wasn't allowed to operate within the city limits.
Here.
Yeah, it wasn't allowed to operate within the city limits of Greenville because we had the connection van or
the connection.
Well, the connection van's not going to get up at butt crack 30 in the middle of the night to come take your drunk ass home from a bar. So, yeah.
You know, they don't have Uber out here where I live, but I think that someone started their own kind of private.
Yeah, it's not. I mean,
urban.
What's the other one?
Uber.
Lyft is the other one that's really big. It depends on what city you're in. Uber was really big on the West Coast. Lyft is really big in New York. It's like the difference between Dunkin' Donuts and Starbucks.
You got to think, what are we thinking sometimes? Like, no, we don't want something that could possibly save thousands of lives.
Yeah, no.
Well, we appreciate you visiting us. I know it's getting late and you got places to go, but February 16th,
February
you guys,
16th.
Make sure you come out to the Corner Street Pub. And you got your website up one more time. It's
cderickmiller.com. That's CDERICK Miller.com, and it's got links to social media, and I do blogging on there. It's got links to all the book sales and the Hunt County Writers League and music and bands, and there's a little bit of everything on there. Also, contacts for paranormal investigations. If you think you can handle me being as thorough as I am with them. Also, weddings. I'm an ordained minister. I do weddings. There's a little bit of everything. So just cderickmiller.com. Just go on there and see a little bit of something crazy that you really didn't know was right in your backyard this whole time.
Wow. He's a fascinating guy. You're a fascinating person. I'm glad that you came here. I'm interested in your novels even more than I was before. We're going to make sure we check it out. But thanks for coming in,
No
brother.
problem. We'll have to do this again soon.
That's all right. It's a wrap, man. Let's get out of here.